The morning sun glinted off the calm lake as I sipped my coffee on the cabin porch, enjoying the peace I'd worked years to secure. Suddenly, a sharp, insistent knocking shattered the quiet. I squinted to see an angry woman standing at the gate, hands on her hips, face flushed red. It was Karen, the infamous HOA president known for terrorizing every new neighbor. "I told you, you don't belong here," she shouted, her voice carried across the lake, echoing off the water. "This is HOA property, you need to leave, now." I calmly set my cup down and smiled. "Actually, Karen, I think there's a misunderstanding." I gestured toward the stack of papers I had in my hand, my cabin's deed. But she wasn't listening. Karen had stormed up the stairs before I could even finish. She waved a phone in my face. "I'm calling 911. This is illegal." Neighbors peeked from behind curtains and porches, watching her tantrum. I stayed calm, opening my deed and pointing out the legal boundary lines. "See, this cabin, and all this land, is mine. Your HOA doesn't have jurisdiction here." Her face twisted in disbelief. "No, that's not possible. I manage this community." I chuckled lightly. "You might want to check the county records, Karen. You might be surprised." Karen's grip on her phone tightened. She hesitated for a moment, then her finger hovered over, "Call." I could see the storm in her eyes, but I stayed relaxed, watching as she made the fateful decision that would eventually change the entire neighborhood dynamic. Karen wasn't just angry, she was furious. She stomped around my porch like she owned the world, pointing fingers and reciting rules that didn't exist. "You can't sit here after 5 in the afternoon. You can't fish without HOA approval," she screeched, waving a laminated sheet of HOA guidelines in my face. The neighbors gathered quietly, peeking from behind blinds and fences. Some whispered to each other, clearly familiar with her over-the-top antics. I leaned against the railing, trying to remain composed, knowing that any reaction might escalate her tantrum. Her phone rang, and she jabbed at it. "Yes, I need the police immediately. There's a trespasser on HOA property." Her voice cracked with outrage. "They're ignoring me. This is harassment." I smiled politely. "Actually, Karen, I think the sheriff might find your complaint unusual." She spun around, pointing at me. "Unusual? Do you think you can just break the rules because you like the view?" "I enforce the HOA regulations. This is my community." I shook my head slowly, trying to keep my voice calm, but firm. "Karen, I understand you're passionate about rules, but this land, it's mine. Your HOA has no authority here. The deed proves it. The boundaries are clear." Her face turned red, her hands trembling as she waved her phone, ready to escalate. Yet something in the air shifted. The neighbors started whispering, noticing my calm demeanor contrasted with her chaos. Her outrage had drawn attention, but instead of intimidation, it made her look small. Even in her fury, I could see her beginning to doubt herself, questioning whether her decades of HOA control could survive a single deed, and a single confident landowner. A rumble of tires announced the sheriff's arrival. A sturdy pickup truck rolled up, lights flashing briefly, and a tall man in uniform stepped out. Karen rushed forward, her voice practically vibrating with hysteria. "Thank God, you have to remove this trespasser. They're defying the HOA rules." The sheriff raised a hand calmly. "Ma'am, let's slow down. I need to hear both sides." Karen waved a hand dramatically toward me. "They refuse to leave my community. This is illegal." I stepped forward, extending my deed and land registry maps. "Officer, as you can see, the property and surrounding land fall under my ownership. Karen's HOA doesn't have legal authority here." The sheriff took the papers, examining each line carefully. His eyes widened slightly as he traced the boundaries. This deed covers everything in this area?" he asked, incredulous. "Yes," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. "Including the lakefront and neighboring plots." My family has owned this land for generations. Karen's face turned pale. Her voice, once confident, now cracked. That's impossible. I manage this community. The sheriff looked at her firmly. Ma'am, I think we need to clarify who legally owns what. He gestured to me. You are within your rights. You are not trespassing. Karen took a step back, clutching her phone like it could protect her from reality. Her HOA authority crumbled in an instant, and the neighborhood watched silently, stunned at the twist in their otherwise ordinary morning. The tension was palpable, and yet, in that moment, the sheriff's calm authority underscored a simple truth: no amount of yelling or intimidation could override legal ownership. The sheriff's words echoed across the lake. Ma'am, according to county records, this property belongs to the family of the person standing before you. Your HOA claims no jurisdiction. Karen froze, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. She glanced around at the neighbors, searching for support. None of them dared to back her up. They had all seen her rages, but none had ever imagined this outcome. I held the original land registry map in my hands, letting it flutter in the breeze for dramatic effect. I didn't expect to have to prove it this way, but yes, I said calmly, this land, the lake, the roads, everything falls under my deed. That includes the area your HOA supposedly governs. Her hands shook. The laminated HOA rules sheet slipped from her grip and fell to the ground. She bent down, picked it up, and stared at it blankly, as though reading the words for the first time. I don't understand, she stammered. The sheriff leaned in, showing her the official county stamp. I'm afraid it's quite clear, ma'am. You've been operating under the assumption that you had control, but legally, that's not the case. You're on someone else's land without permission. The neighbors gasped quietly, some whispering excitedly. Karen turned crimson, realizing the weight of the revelation. Every threat she had ever made, every complaint, every intimidation tactic, was suddenly meaningless. For the first time, she had no words, no rules, no authority. The moment was surreal. It was a complete reversal of power, a moment every onlooker would remember. The legendary HOA president reduced to silence, while the rightful landowner stood calm, victorious, and unshaken. Karen's usual storm of words faltered. She opened her mouth, then closed it again, unsure how to respond. Maybe it was a misunderstanding, she whispered, barely audible. The sheriff shook his head. Ma'am, it wasn't a misunderstanding. It's just the law. You've been trespassing without permission. I decided to let the moment sink in. I could have evicted her immediately, but instead, I wanted to demonstrate power with patience. I'm not asking anyone to leave. I just want clarity. No fake HOA rules. No more false complaints. You can stay, but on my terms. Neighbors peeked from windows and porches, their faces lighting up. Some clapped quietly, others laughed in disbelief. Karen glared at me, still shaking, now with the realization that all her threats were empty. She tried one last desperate attempt. I can still enforce some community standards. The sheriff interjected firmly. Only on your own property, ma'am. Not here. Defeated, Karen stormed off, muttering under her breath. The neighbors turned to me with smiles, some coming forward to shake my hand. The air felt lighter, freer, filled with a sense of justice finally restored. I walked back onto the porch, looking out at the lake. The water shimmered in the sunlight, peaceful and untouched. For once, everything was calm. The HOA chaos had ended, replaced by reality, ownership, law, and respect. It was a victory not just for me, but for everyone who had silently suffered under Karen's iron grip. And from that day forward, the Lakeside cabin, and the county around it, belonged to me, legally, undeniably, and completely.